Behind me is my book, One Eighth of a Man, Hate for the Skin I'm In. And what I'm going to talk about today is something that's been set up just over the past few months that Donald Trump has been in office. And that setup, it's been systematic. That setup is almost complete. And that's the process of whitening the United States systematically. All of these actions that have taken place that appear random are all planned test cases. One was the supposed abducting and snatching of people off the streets, I guess for their speech, and then shipping them off to U.S.-based lockups and foreign prisons without due process. Just take them off the streets, put them on a plane or some other transport, and get them out of here, disappear them. That was a test to see if there was any mechanisms available to stop it from happening and or to make them bring these people back. And what Trump and his administration discovered is that there is no process to make them comply with anything. They have all the enforcement mechanisms and muscle and guns and whatever have you under their control in the executive branch. So they passed that test. Then they went to the courts to weaken the ability of individuals like you, me, someone with a immigration status that they say is not strong enough to be here in the United States, to weaken the ability of judges to slow them down nationwide. Supreme Court granted that to them by saying these lower court judges could not issue orders that apply nationally. And some people say, what does that mean? That means that me and you and anyone else that has our constitutional rights violated, maybe we're locked up, you scream, I'm a citizen, or I've got legal status here in the United States, and some judge in Maryland or Washington State has already ruled on that same issue in your favor, it doesn't matter to you. Because now you have to approach that individually, unless you get some kind of class action. But that's not something that happens quickly or easily. And in some states, that's discouraged. So you're on your own with whatever resources you have or don't have, fighting against the federal government that you have fund with tax dollars. Each individual case now falls on the person to fight their battle, find their attorney. You're at a disadvantage. So that was a big one. Then you had the case of an individual that was born on a U.S. military base in Germany. Whether his father was a citizen at the time or not, he may have not been naturalized at the time. His mother was a citizen of another country. They just sent that person to Jamaica. And I had the popular thought that you're born on a U.S. military base, that's considered United States territory, you're a citizen. Well, no, because they used that clause in the birthright citizenship part of the Constitution that says under the jurisdiction of, where they're saying that soil where that United States base is located is under jurisdiction of the country that is located in, not the United States. So, i.e., you're not automatically a citizen. Matter of fact, if you are born of two parents that are United States birthright citizens, they still have to submit paperwork to the State Department before you become a citizen. All of these things are test cases to see, can they get away with it? Now they're stripping protective status from people. Venezuelans, Haitians, other groups. And this march is going methodically. Now, the Supreme Court also said that people can be deported to facilities for incarceration in countries other than their country of origin. So that means you can have lockups, gulags, whatever you want to call them, all across the world that people can be deported to with no natural connection to those countries. Okay, now you have this facility in Florida that they're calling Alligator Alcatraz out in the swamp to house people. Who's that for? Okay? So I want to get to something that's really kind of personal. I'm a natural born United States citizen. So were my parents and their parents and their parents, on and on. Okay, let's go back to that dreaded word, slavery. Okay, now, birthright citizenship came about after slavery, after the Civil War, to give former slaves citizenship. And then that extended to everyone else born in the United States. Let's rewind before the Civil War. And I have it in my book. Slavery, after the ban on bringing in new slaves from Africa went into effect, slavery was human husbandry. Husbandry means the cultivation of crops or animals, like farming and ranching. Slaves were ranched, okay? They were bred, sold, distributed, traded, whatever, to increase the number. Now, a lot of people in my position in 2025, black people, proud black people, talented black people, can't adjust their headset to go back to say, we were, our ancestors were just like the cattle in the field that you see when you drive down some interstates. Okay? When the females came of age, they were bred to a male to have offspring, just like cattle, just like swine, just like sheep, horses, so on and so forth. Because you had to increase your assets. And if you couldn't bring in new, i.e. wild, you had to do domestic breeding to increase your flock, your herd, so on and so forth. So, when the friction between the North and the South came about, slavery was a big part of that. Not because people say that's wrong, we need to free those folks, but because it was an economic deal. People that had slaves, that was kind of as assets. States that didn't have slavery didn't have those assets. So it was an economic imbalance. And the people in the South that owned slaves wanted to keep it. So Abraham Lincoln needed to squash the friction. And over time, the Civil War started. And over time, during that war, the actual freedom of slaves became something that happened in order to defang and weaken the South economically, not so much as to these people should be free morally. But now we're here, and we're still here. And now you have people in power that see that as a problem. They see the immigrants as a problem. They see the ascendancy of women to powerful positions and holding economic power as a problem. So, the mechanism to whiten America, the United States, back to its prior state, MAGA, is almost in place. The last block is what does the Supreme Court rule on birthright citizenship. And if that goes down, they're coming for all of us that aren't white Christian males. You see, some things just go slowly and appear random, but it's not random. It's all a plan. It's Project 2025. Stephen Miller, one of Trump's key advisors, has reportedly said he would have 100 million people in the United States and they would all look like him. Well, now there's 340 million in the United States and they all don't look like him. Many do. There's a lot that don't. And he would like to reduce that number of those that don't. When you hear Trump talk about shipping out homegrown criminals, he's talking about emptying the prisons and getting them out of the United States. What's the biggest prison population by percentage? Black folks. Black people make up 13% of the population, but 32% of the people in state and federal prisons. Over 400,000 black people are in state and federal prisons. Suppose they all disappeared from the United States. That's a big number when you're talking about 13% of the total population. So, all I want to say is in my 66 plus years of life, I've never felt so identified by this as I do now. The anti-DEI, the wiping of black folks from history, and on and on and on. Now, where a year ago, never paid any attention. I did what I was going to do, went where I was going to go, drove what I was going to drive, went about my business. Now, I am aware that I am a black man and possibly maybe I'm an anomaly of what some people expect a black man to be. I had someone ask me recently about a business venture I'm involved in, and they asked me, "Do you own all of this?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh." It wasn't one of us that asked that, somebody else, with a little surprise in their voice. So, watch this space that I'm talking about, because what you think may be meant for someone else may be meant for you if you're black, Latino, if you're a woman, if you're Asian American, what have you. The system is almost completely set up. We're waiting on one more shoe to drop. And that's what the Supreme Court decides on birthright citizenship. And then We're rocking and rolling.